Oh, there's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Here I am with another book haul. I'm filming it on March 20th. Let's see how many weeks or months it takes for you to get to it, because I have been buying books like a fiend and am backlogged. It's just such a happy problem. Here are a baker's dozen of some recent acquisitions. First we have a novel by a British black writer, Bernard and the Cloth Monkey by Judith Bryan. And this is a new series curated by... I love that word. Do I love that word? Well, I'll finish the sentence. It's curated by Bernardine Evaristo. She has curated some out-of-print novels by black writers in the UK. And this is the first one that I bought, and they're like all $15 in paperback. This is the one that I got, and it was originally published in 1998. The protagonist returns to London after a long absence. Her mother's disappeared, her father's dead. She has to deal with the sister that is still there and carry on. By the way, the name of the series is Black Britain Writing Back. Brand new, like they just came out in the last couple of months as of March 20th. And I do like that cover. Next, I have a doorstopper of a novel from Estonia. It's volume 1 of a pentology. Vargamäe by A.H. Tammsaare. Let's see how we pronounce his name. I'm going to trust that Vargamäe is probably correct, but let's see about the author's surname. Well, I'm getting Tammsaare off the web. Somebody will correct me if that's not right. And like I say, this is the first volume in a pentology. Pentagon. Five books. So... which portrays, this first volume anyway, portrays the late 19th century peasant world in Estonia. I can't remember how I heard about it, but I heard about it somehow. Translated from the Estonian, almost forgot, by Inna Feldbach and Alan Peter Trei. And I think fairly newly translated 2018. This edition by a Glaswegian Scottish publisher, Vagabond Voices. It was originally published in 1926. And apparently, he was a very well-known writer in Estonia. I have never read a book from Estonia. But when I do, it'll be this one. I bought this at the Kinokuniya bookstore near where I live in downtown Tokyo. They have a 20% off sale twice a year. I went there at New Year's and got some of these books came from that sale, including this one. The new novel by a queer African-American writer, Memorial by Bryan Washington. Now, I don't have high hopes for it, I must say. I've heard mixed reviews of it, but some very, very positive reviews. I have his debut collection of short stories. What was it called? Well, that's crazy that the author sketch of this novel, which was published after that debut collection of short stories, doesn't mention the debut collection of short stories. So let me find it here. Lot. It was called Lot. And I bailed. I didn't like them at all. I think I read 2 stories and stopped. I hope I like this better, because, I'm rooting for him to be successful. He's a Houston-based writer. And this is... Can you read that print? Because I sure as hell can't. White print on a gray, light, almost pastel gray background. Oh, good Lord. It's about 2 young men. I don't know anything more about them, other than that they've been together for a few years. I think one of them might be Japanese-American because his father is dying in Osaka. That doesn't mean that he's Japanese-American. I will find out if I read that far into the book before I bail. Come on, John. Be positive. Be positive. I bought the book, so I'm rooting for it to be better than his short stories. Okay, I'll read the first few lines of dialogue. I like to read the opening for books that have, some kind of a standalone vitality, and just because a book doesn't mean that I think any less of the book, but when you don't hear me read the opening sentence or the opening paragraph, it's because it just doesn't kind of have that standalone vitality. These few lines do. Mike's taking off for Osaka, but his mother's flying into Houston. Just for a few weeks, he says. Or maybe a couple of months, he says. But I need to go. The first thing I think of is, fuck. The second's that we don't have the money for this. Then it occurs to me that we don't have any savings at all. But Mike's always been good about finances, always cool about separating his checks. It's something I'd always taken for granted about him. All right, well, we'll see how that, where it goes from there. I also bought this at the book sale, and this is a short story collection. Is it from Germany? It was translated from the German, but that doesn't... I gotta check. Yes, it's by a German writer, and it was fairly recently translated into English. An Inventory of Losses by Judith Schalansky. It's a beautiful dust jacketless hardcover, and it was translated from the German by Jackie Smith. I am a little bit nervous about it because Britta, when I told her I had acquired it, she said, "Oh, really? Okay." And Britta, if I have misquoted you, you can correct the record in the comments section. And Kirkus's starred review says that these are meticulously researched stories. Researched short stories, really? Okay, well, we'll give it a try. Well, this is interesting. So I don't know if are they stories. I gotta find out what this is. The Guardian says it's a playful meditation on lost objects, from paintings to actors and islands. A mix of history, imagination, and detail. So these are kind of maybe essayistic things, and that, as long as I'm not expecting short stories, maybe that will be okay. It's one of those genre-defying books. I find those often to be a little bit too precious for my tastes, but I'm certainly going to give this one a try. And this is a novel from the NYRB books from Morocco that I didn't have in hand in time to do when we were for Invisible Cities, the month that it was Morocco, but I have it now, and I will get to it. It matches my blouse. Alba, are you watching? The Simple Past by Driss Chraïbi, translated from the French by Adam Schatz. And it is a Moroccan novel that was originally published in 1954, and it was published simultaneously in France and Morocco. But Chraïbi is a Moroccan writer. It caused a real explosion when it was published. It seems like autofiction. The protagonist's first name is Driss. So it's a coming-of-age story, and the protagonist comes from a fairly well-off Moroccan family. This is a Canadian classic. In other words, I haven't read it. Bear by Marian Engel. It's a modern classic. It was published in the 70s, right? 1976. That's right. Marian Engel was a much-loved kind of minor Canadian novelist. I mean, she died fairly young. She died maybe shortly after this. Well, she died in 1985, but she wasn't very old, and this is her most famous work. My mom had a copy of this book. I've never asked her if she liked it. I don't think she still has it. But that's how it first came on my radar. My mom had it. But it's about a woman in Canada who has sex with a bear. So it's, a metaphor for Canadian literature or Canadian culture or something. I have very little interest, to be honest, in reading a novel about a woman having sex with a bear. And I don't think there's any other characters. The woman and the bear. And it's the complete antithesis of a Sean book. But I've decided I'm not going to tell you why I've decided to read it. It's for one of my secret projects. Just stay tuned, will ya? I have it, and I'm going to read it. Do you want me to read the opening sentence, or do you want me to read some of the naughty bits? Okay, here is the opening paragraph. There is no bestiality in this paragraph, I guarantee it. In the winter, she lived like a mole, buried deep in her office, digging among maps and manuscripts. She lived close to her work and shopped on the way between her apartment and the institute, scurrying hastily through the tube of winter from refuge to refuge, wasting no time. She did not like cold air on her skin. What the hell is she doing in Canada then? Another NYRB book, this one from Guadeloupe. The Bridge of Beyond by Simone Schwarz-Bart. Translated from the French by Barbara Bray. And this one came onto my radar because I came across a fascinatingly ridiculous article on LitHub about 10 books that nobody's ever heard of that you must read. And this was one. But this is an NYRB book, so it kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. I did a reaction video. Other people do the Women's Prize, and, Sean does this. 9 obscure books that you must read. And this is one of the few that I actually thought I would read, and I went so far as to buy it. So it is set in Guadeloupe. It's about love and wonder, mothers and daughters, and the grim legacy of slavery on the island of Guadeloupe. That's where Maurice Condé is from, and I did try one of her books, and that didn't work out very well. I'm hoping this one works out better. It's got a family tree. Okay, here's the first paragraph. A man's country may be cramped or vast according to the size of his heart. I've never found my country too small, though that isn't to say my heart is great. And if I could choose, it's here in Guadeloupe that I'd be born again, suffer, and die. Yet not long back, my ancestors were slaves on this volcanic, hurricane-swept, mosquito-ridden, nasty-minded island. But I didn't come into the world to weigh the world's woe. I prefer to dream, on, standing in my garden, just like any other old woman of my age, till death comes and takes me as I dream, me and all my joy. Now that is the most joyful, fantastic opening to a novel ever. I think I have to start reading this tonight. I can't. I'm reading 1,000 other books, but that just is the most inviting opening. That is such a Sean opening. I'm 17 times more excited to start this now that I've, for the first time, read that opening paragraph. Wow. This is a short story collection. It's reprinted. I think it was out of print for many years and just came back into print sometime in 2020. And I heard about it, didn't know anything about the author, knew that it was a kind of a new release, a new reprint, until Ronan Hession raved about it. So then I bought it. It's an American collection, Blue in Chicago, by Bette Howland. I'd never heard of her. It was originally published in 1978. Bette Howland died in 2017. She was born in 1937. She wrote 3 books. This is one of them. Oh, W3, I think, has been more recently reissued, because everybody on Twitter is talking about W3. The biographical sketch doesn't tell me much more than that, but these are her short stories, and they're supposed to be wonderful. Oh, actually, there's more interesting stuff on this flap, and I'm not a big fan of all the salesman propaganda that's on things, but there's some interesting detail here. She was an outsider and intellectual from a working-class neighborhood in Chicago, a divorcee and single mother, to the disapproval of her Jewish family. An artist chipped away at. This is a nice turn of phrase. So I'm giving an exemption to my usual distaste, if not nausea, that's induced by most of the copy here. This is nice. Listen to this. An artist chipped away at by poverty and self-doubt. She sounds like my people. The first story. Let's have a listen, shall we? A visit. Opening paragraph. I was driving an expressway through a large city. Interchanges, on-off ramps, bridges, underpasses. Traffic glittered. Roadwork stretched ahead forever. I kept heading the wrong way. You know how it is. The wrong lane, the wrong turn, and you're stuck. Nothing to do but just keep going, on, till the next exit. By now it was getting dark, and the going was getting rougher. Flags, flares, sandbags, barricades. Not only was I lost, I was on a road not open. No road at all. A tunnel of rocks and mud, closed for repairs. That's why there were no more cars. Other drivers knew about the mess and the construction work and had taken the detours. Okay, the next paragraph's short, so let's just keep going, shall we? But someone else must have been in the same fix, because out of nowhere a car came barreling past, exhaust glowing red in the taillights. I was almost expecting it. The skid, the screech, the crash, and scream of metal and glass. Okay, well, I'm intrigued. Here is a Scottish novel by the Scottish writer William McIlvanney. Weekend. I bought it because it was cheap online, and I was just starting his novel Docherty, and I loved it. My review of it will probably be posted. It's been filmed, it's been recorded, not edited yet. It will probably be posted before this video is, so I will put a link to my review of Docherty, because it had some flaws that I couldn't overlook, but it was otherwise a book that I loved very much. And on the basis of how much I loved it from the beginning, I picked up this one, Weekend. He wrote crime fiction mostly, and I'm typically not interested in that, but this was one that wasn't. So this is set in a Victorian mansion on a Scottish island, and the characters are a group of English profs. Do I need to know more? I do not need to know more. Oh, the opening is fabulous. Okay, these are all women at the beginning of this novel. Listen to this. I want to, even though I'm loving all the books I'm reading, the last 3, I want to just jettison some of what I'm reading to continue on with these. Listen to this. It was that time when, during an evening's drinking, conversation puts away the telescopic rifle and takes out the scattergun. That is a fabulous opening line. Let's continue on, shall we? Jackie had been the first to reach that point, Allison thought. Crap, Jackie was saying. All men, crap. Why do we bother? Kate was laughing her nervous laugh. I could believe you more, Allison said, if you didn't seem hypnotized by the bum parade at the bar. Choosing a target, Jackie said. She went into an American accent. I feel like kicking ass. Okay, I have even more admiration for William McIlvanney for writing that opening to this novel. Next is a novel that I think I first heard about this one on Eric Carl Anderson's channel. This author is from Senegal, David Diop. At Night, All Blood is Black, and translated from the French by Anna Moschovakis. I think I've read another book she translated. So David Diop was born in Paris but raised in Senegal, and he is of Senegalese ethnicity but was born in Paris. This is his second novel. Oh, interesting. So it is set in World War I, and the protagonist is Senegalese, and he finds him fighting with a so-called chocolat soldier with the French army during World War I. Okay, I don't know what that means. What is a chocolat? Chocolat what? Oh, okay. This is very interesting. This is completely new to me. A chocolat, or chocolate, soldier is good-looking but useless. It was a phrase that came into the parlance, into circulation from a George Bernard Shaw play, Arms and the Man. I think it originally was chocolate cream soldier. So, let's look at this again. The protagonist, a Senegalese man, he finds himself fighting as in fact, I screwed it up. It wasn't with a so-called chocolat soldier. It was as. So let's listen to it again. Let's start from the top, shall we? This is a blooper that I'm not taking out and putting in at the end of the year. I'm just going to leave it in for your viewing pleasure. The protagonist is a Senegalese man who finds himself fighting as a so-called chocolat soldier with the French army during World War I. I don't want to know any more than that. That sounds fabulous. I kind of remember Eric talking about the fact that it was set in World War I. Sounds intriguing. And the last one for today is a novel from the Sudan. Another NYRB book. I've been hearing about it for years. I finally picked it up. Seasons of Migration to the North by Tayeb Salih. Translated from the Arabic by Dennis Johnson-Davies. Tayeb, so I'm told, is one of the preeminent Sudanese authors, and this is his most well-known book. The protagonist had studied for years in Europe and then returns to his village along the Nile. It's the 1960s. That sounds like the classic post-colonial novel, and I am here for that. It's a short little book, not even 150 pages, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. All right, that's what I got. Wow. Thanks for watching.